Hi, everybody, and welcome to today's installment of Align's Daily Dose of Advice, our way of bringing you valuable insights and thought leadership from business experts from around the world on various topics that hopefully will help you and your business. My name is Eugene Turk. I'm the Vice President of Business Development at Align, and you can always learn more about Align at aligntoday.com. And my guest today is Matt Bulloch. Matt currently serves as the president of TentCraft in Traverse City, Michigan. Prior to his role as president of TentCraft, Matt spent time as a former firefighter, a soldier in the Army National Guard, and as a Wall Street analyst. So a very diverse work experience that has brought him to his current position. Matt, it's nice to see you. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Eugene, thanks for inviting me to chat. And as you know, we're Align users. We have been for at least 2 years, and it's a tool that we do get a lot of value from.
Great. Thank you so very much. I appreciate that. Matt, I know that we have been hearing sort of generally in the business community a lot of stories about companies that are pivoting as a result of the COVID-19 business disruption. And your company is one of those stories and one of those companies. So I was hoping to spend some time with you today sort of to learn more about the pivot that you've undergone at TentCraft, and in the hopes that it might serve as an example for other companies out there right now. So why don't we start by having you tell us about the TentCraft business before COVID? Sort of what was your product offering? What were your primary markets or customers? How long had you been in business, and how many employees did you have?
Yeah, absolutely. So I had the opportunity to start the business in 2007. So I think that's 13 years ago. We fluctuated between 70 and 90 employees. We have a lot of seasonality. And in normal times, we are in the advertising supply business, focusing on mobile marketing or experiential marketing. Mm-hmm. And our primary product is a tent with a company's logo on it. Okay. So really a higher quality, made in the US version of an easy up that you might use for tailgating. We offer a professional quality version of that we've designed and engineered, that we manufacture 100% in the US. And so, a quote unquote professional marketer would be a user of our products. So someone, if Bank of America is sponsoring a marathon and they want a Bank of America tent every mile as a water station, and maybe they want to use those same tents at every marathon that they sponsor, or outdoor sporting event or a concert, where companies want to connect with current or future customers for sampling, for some sort of face-to-face interaction.
I can almost understand that, given the types of experiences you've just identified, or events you've identified, marathons or large group gatherings. I can, I know I can understand or envision how the COVID crisis impacted that business. But from your perspective, how did the entire sort of, everyone working from home and social distancing impact that existing business, your existing customers, and ultimately your sales pipeline?
Yeah, so it has decimated our existing business, and it's been tough. I'm kind of a news junkie anyway, so I was following the spread of COVID since the beginning of the year. We also, our family was going on a Disney cruise in early February, and so there was starting to be a buzz about cruise ships. So I was kind of acutely following the news anyway.
Right.
But in early March is when events started just canceling or postponing, with South by Southwest, where a lot of big corporate advertisers at South by Southwest, we'd always send a bunch of stuff there. When the NCAA canceled the NCAA basketball tournament, Eugene, I was happy to hear that we're both Wahoos from UVA, which so we're now the two-time reigning champs, as you pointed out. A big mountain bike festival in California called Sea Otter. We have a bunch of customers in the biking industry, and that stuff all canceled. And it was very stressful, and not knowing when if ever the event business will bounce back. But I was watching the news and I saw a picture of a drive-up screening station that they were using in South Korea. And I thought that was so smart, and I'd never seen anything like that or heard anything about that, where, if you have symptoms or want to be tested, you drive up and stay in your car, and the medical workers come to you instead of going into, touching the door handle and sitting in a waiting room and coughing on everyone. And I thought that was so smart. And later that night, I think I had 2 or 3 beers and wrote an email to the whole team. We've used Align to set quarterly priorities, but I basically put kind of a hard stop on everything else we were doing. And I said, in the past week, all events have canceled. This is going to continue. It's going to get worse. We need to focus 100% on medical applications. And, by kind of saying this is the one priority, it's the only thing that matters, providing tents for healthcare applications really kind of got the team narrowly focused. In Align, we're big users of the weekly meeting. We don't use Align for our daily huddles, just for whatever reason. But we did switch actually to daily huddles on this medical tent initiative, which has been nice.
So it sounds like I think I have a good sense of your aha moment, sort of watching the news and understanding it, and I think I understand sort of how you identified the pivot opportunity by seeing what was going on in other countries with the tents that they were using for medical screenings. But sort of, and I guess my next question is, how did you execute on the pivot? I mean, it's one thing to identify the opportunity and to communicate with your team, but then how did you execute on the pivot, and what has been the result of that pivot in terms of the new market, the new opportunities that has presented to you and your sales pipeline that you previously said had been decimated?
So the executing on the pivot is kind of the basic management stuff. I really like a book by Vern Harnish called Scaling Up. And one of the things he talks about is, you need the right people doing the right things right, which is how one of the ways that Align helps us is, I do believe we have the right people on the team. Are they working on the right things? And that was probably our biggest problem before we started kind of following Rockefeller habits and using Align is, we had the right people, but they weren't always doing the right thing. But if you have the right people doing the right thing, you want to be sure they're doing them right. And so we did try to, figure out what we had to do to our website, what we had to do to our product mix, how we had to price it, if we wanted to be on our main site or have microsites, and then kind of let the people do their thing. So we would get together in a daily huddle to talk about who was doing what, and then just let the team execute.
And so what has been the result of that pivot? How's business now?
It's weird. So it didn't happen immediately. So we March is normally really busy for us. And so we were down 25% from goal in March, but in April, it was our best month ever, revenue wise. And so we had a few really big orders for healthcare systems. I haven't gotten financials yet, but it should be a solid month, which, as I'm thinking, all I want to do is get to next year, and so I've got looking at 2021 with a flag in the ground, and we just need to get there. So a big month like we just had in April just gives us more runway. But the medical stuff that came on hot and heavy for 5 or 6 weeks is slowing down. I attribute that to 2 things that are good for us as a nation. Most healthcare systems weren't overrun. Right. So we were selling these, indoor partitions and quarantine shelters and mobile infirmaries that now with, I think some successful flattening the curve, a lot of healthcare systems and states and local governments are taking a wait and see approach. And testing still isn't widely available, despite some of the press conferences you see. But so the need for these kind of mobile testing tents has also slowed down. So we are right in the midst of trying to figure out our next pivot, which we did receive that PPP loan. I imagine you're familiar with that.
Yep.
And I think we're using that aggressively. The PPP loan has 2 triggers. It has, you need to get your FTE count up to where it was at one of the eligible periods, and then you need the total amount of payroll to kind of match that, so it can all be forgiven. And instead of hiring back people, we did do a few layoffs. I don't know who's going to see this, but we did some layoffs. Some of them were probably overdue, but then some folks we just didn't have work for, and it sucks, but it was the right thing. But instead of bringing back people on our art team, in our digital print team that we don't have enough work for, and that are doing fine on unemployment, right? With kind of the super federal government unemployment, they're people that we love, but we don't have work for them. We're really trying to supercharge our product development. So we have 7 interns starting tomorrow, and the resumes of these kids would just blow you away. These were kids that had all engineers that had internships at General Motors or Steelcase or big pharmaceutical companies that pulled their internships. So a lot of these interns were canceled. And so, these kids that have 3 years of engineering coursework, all of a sudden their internship evaporated. We are able to offer a paid internship because we've got the PPP funds, and it's basically an 8-week engineering sprint to help us figure out our next pivots. And we've got projects identified for them. Maybe 2 of them hit, maybe 3 of them hit. I doubt all of them will hit, but we're going to have smart kids that are singularly focused on figuring out stuff for us to do kind of the rest of the summer, the rest of the fall, and then hopefully there will be viable businesses into next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly a topic for a completely different conversation about sort of the acquisition talent opportunity that sort of exists out there in the workplace as well. Matt, we always like to finish out with the question of what is the number one piece of advice that you would give a fellow CEO or fellow entrepreneur right now, given your experience?
So I heard the quote, and I can't remember where I heard it, but the quote was, panic is contagious, but so is leadership. And so I do think in our organizations, our people are looking to us to provide context and to be steady and to cast a vision of how we're going to get through this, what we're going to do, how things are going to change. And so I just thought that that quote of panic is contagious, but so is leadership. I've repeated that to myself a number of times, that even though I am feeling uncertain and apprehensive and scared, that I'm in a better position than most. And, it really is up to me to be a leader and to steer the ship and get us through this.
Well, Matt, it's really a great story. Congratulations on what you've been able to achieve so far in a very, difficult business environment. Thank you so much for joining us and sort of sharing your experience and your thoughts and advice. For those of you that would like to learn more about Matt and his company, you can go to TentCraft, TentCraft.com. Again, if you'd like to learn more about Align and the sort of features and functionality of our software, like Matt mentioned in terms of communication and quarterly priority setting, you can go to aligntoday.com. And we hope you'll join us next time for another installment of the Daily Dose of Advice. Till then, thank you so much, and I hope you make it a great day. Thanks, Matt.
Cool. Thanks, Eugene.